Welcome to Mystara, where today we're experiencing time compression. Because this week I'm looking at an attempted restart of a new Beckme product, the Thunder Rift, in which a surprise twist sends the entire party to Karamikos in one of their adventures. It's never explained if they plane hopped or teleported, but it counts as Mystara, so it goes on the list. Other than that single jaunt outside, the setting is entirely self-contained in a small valley surrounded by mountains on all sides. So I guess that automatically qualifies for Mystaran status. But what can you do in Thunder Rift? Who lives there? Is it true once you hit 4th level you have to go to Carousel to try and be renewed? I'm Mr. Welch, and it's totally like time to talk about the Valley. The setting itself was written by Colin McComb, better known for his Planescape work, and published in 1992. TSR was looking to draw more interest in the basic set and give younger players something to start with. Thunder Rift was the answer, an absolutely troporific setting that hits on all the classic fantasy elements. A war between elves and dwarves? In there. How about a conflict between wizards and warriors that destroys both sides? Oh yeah, complete with a cursed swamp and a forest left over from the war. All the basic races are there, and hardly anything outside of them. Rather than keep track of a dozen humanoid bad guys, you've got orcs, goblins, and a few others. DMs don't have to worry too much about players going off the rail, because the entire campaign is in the middle of a huge valley with only one way out thanks to mile-high mountains surrounding it. The Dungeon Master has you there for 3 levels of playtime. The first book on the line is appropriately enough called Thunder Rift, and it's a supplement, not an adventure. It's the only supplement in the entire line, unless you count the Dungeon Master screen, which has a Thunder Rift-related adventure that's actually set in Karamikos for a large chunk of it. There were 6 modules released for it, and a few box sets as well. The production quality is top-notch. The modules are worth it for the maps, if nothing else. But the modules are introductory modules, designed for party levels 1 to 3. A notable exception is Rage of the Rakasta, which is a solo one-on-one module designed for single player levels 2 to 4. This one is infamous for its difficulty, including fighting a monster early in the module that ends the adventure early if you fail a save versus blindness that can't be cured during the adventure. This one kind of slipped through quality control. Oh wait, this is Williams era TSR, there was no playtest. The history of Thunder Rift is intentionally simplistic. The source book is only 32 pages after all. There are no gods or immortals, religion is left entirely for the DM to work on. The history section takes up all of 3 pages. The elves and dwarves lived in the Rift until their differing cultures caused them to go to war with each other. The orcs framing them for various atrocities might have helped spark the war. The elven magic allowed them to level dwarven buildings, and their archers slaughtered the slow-moving dwarves. The dwarves countered by burning entire forests to the ground. Eventually, the orc and goblin sabotage was revealed, and the 2 sides turned on the humanoids, driving them out of the rift and into the mountain walls. The end. Oh wait, I still got 20 pages left. The humans then showed up and settled all the spaces that were abandoned by the elves and the dwarves. Halflings were already there, but they don't get a mention until after the war was over, as neither side thought they were good at fighting, so didn't ask them for help. Tensions rose again, but the evil humanoids attacked, and this time the humans rallied their neighbors and drove back the humanoids, making humans everybody's favorite race. When you've only got 3 pages to give an entire history of your setting, sometimes you gotta skimp on exposition. The races agreed that a group of adventurers from every race would protect the rift, and 6 were chosen, with 2 humans, 2 halflings, an elf, and a dwarf. They protected the rift from various threats until they had to deal with a dragon, who ate 2 of them before they killed it. I'm pretty sure that actually happened in a game for the writer's party. That tradition, however, continues with the quadrille, representing the best adventurer from each race sworn to protect the rift. Then politics caused a spat between the fighter types and the wizard types, resulting in a war of mutual destruction. The wizards caused the land containing the fighter school to sink into the swamp, resulting in a cursed mire called the Gloomfins. The fighters struck back by pretending to hide. Then when the wizards welcomed a new class of apprentices at their school, called the Wizard Spire, turns out that several of the apprentices were actually assassins who killed everybody at the school and then vanished. So remember, when you're accepting new apprentices, always check IDs before you start training. Just a word of advice. The rest of the book covers the various towns of the Thunder Rift, and this is not a heavily populated area. In fact, the low population in a region cut off from the rest of the world is a bit disturbing because they're only a few generations from greeting newcomers with banjo music. This is one of those settings where you can't really think too hard about population density or geography because it's not meant to be a real-world simulator. The Thunder Rift is about 70 square miles, which is a decent-sized town, but if this region has 1,000 people living there, you'd be lucky. The rivers look like they were drawn using one of those marble maze games, with the rivers flowing in reverse directions, circling entire regions containing a lake and a swamp already. If your players give you grief about the nonsensical layout of the rivers, just roll on the Wandering Monster chart. The largest town on the Rift is Melanir, which barely has 200 people, of which 15% are guards. It's a fairly detailed city, if a little bit unpopulated like the rest of the region. It's meant to be the hub city for Thunder Rift, and other cities will tell you that for higher-priced armor and weapons they have to visit Melanir. The town is quite diverse, with elves, dwarves, humans, and halflings living together without mass hysteria. The other two large cities include the fishing village of Klein and the cursed city of Toralin, which is the focus of the module Quest for the Silver Sword. There are a variety of interesting terrain features in the Rift, all containing various monsters sorted for the players to kill. Gnolls and bugbears wage war against each other in the Gauntland forests that dominate the eastern half of the Rift. Orcs and dwarves continue their war in the Farallon Hills. The Burning Hills house the majority of the goblins and orcs, as well as the Adventure Raven's Ruin. The Great Grasslands connect all the various regions and have a large amount of monsters from each location, as well as numerous unmarked towns and villages. Ogres patrol the Gracken Forest. The Brecht Wood is an enchanted place where bipedal creatures aren't welcome. Lizard men control the Marshwood, trolls the Black Swamp. The Horned Hills have one of the only exits in the Rift, though it's overrun with minotaurs and manticores. As you can see, the adventures are sorted by region by what kind of creatures you want to face. The cursed regions are filled with undead, and of course human bandits are in abundance. This is very much an introductory setting, harkening back to the time where you just discovered the game and were inviting all your friends to play, hoping that it would stick with just a few of them and you can get a real campaign going. The adventures themselves are very short dungeon crawls, 16 pages each. I'm not going to cover them, because I can't talk about any of them without serious spoilers in the review. If you find one in print, grab it. The full color maps are gorgeous and can be easily repurposed for your game. They don't add much, though the Knight of Newts does add fire newts to Mystara. Again, these are beginner modules. Experienced players will get bored with them. But they are gorgeous beginner modules, so collectors will want them anyways. Since I was going to spend the next 6 weeks reviewing the modules, I have to skip a bit on my list and come up with 9 more topics to replace the 3 that I haven't filled out yet and the 6 that I just dropped. But I've also got over 50 topics left on the list, so I've got some time. Looking down the list, we've got the Unseelie Fae of Mystara, talking about such classics like the Lantern Man, Ginny Greenteeth, Jack and Irons, and Rawhead. But until then, remember, 3d6 straight down.